Welcome everyone back to another episode on the Reading Writing Corner for the book reviews. Yes, I know the ambiance is a little different for the lighting, but I lost my daylight, so I'm recording at this at night, and I didn't want to look so washed out with the way I have things set up because I'm still amateurish at this and I don't have a lot of good useful tools to be able to do this properly in a wonderful setting with lighting and stuff. I'm also bad at that. Don't know how to do that stuff yet, but I'm learning. Can't blame me for that. This is a non-spoiler review, this part, of Midnight Awakening, the third book in the series of the Midnight Breed. Now, about the series. Part human, part otherworldly, the breed has lived among humankind for thousands of years, maintaining a attentive peace built on secrecy, power, and the dark justice carried out by the formidable warriors of the Order. But now, the blood war within the race is set to ignite. Vampires are going rogue in startling numbers, feeding without discretion, killing humans in the streets. It is up to the Order to stop the spreading threat of rogue domination. And in doing so, each of the warriors will be forced to confront private demons, darkest secrets, deepest fears. Some will know triumph, some will know loss. Each warrior can count on one thing: love. When it finds him, will often come at the worst possible moment with the least likely woman, and it will bring each of these powerful males to his knees. What made me read this book? As I said, it's the third book in the series, and I really want to know what happens to these characters that I have already been introduced to, knowing that I'll also be introduced to new characters every time I read the books. However, the beauty of this one is that I don't really get to meet that many characters, and the main pairing is Tegan and Elise, who have already been introduced in previous books. And I'm glad they get to have their happily ever after. So, with that in mind, I'm going to read the blurb for the book itself. With a dagger in her hand and vengeance on her mind, dark cave and beauty, Elise Chase prowls Boston streets in search of retribution against the rogue vampires who took from her everything she cherished. Using an extraordinary psychic gift, she tracks her prey, well aware that the power she possesses is destroying her. She must learn to harness this gift. And for that, she can turn to only one man, the deadliest of the breed warriors, Tegan. No stranger to loss, Tegan knows Elise's pain. He knows fury. When he slays his enemies, it is with ice in his veins. He is perfect in his self-control until Elise seeks his aid in her personal war. An unholy alliance is forged, a bond that will link them by blood and vow, and plunge them into a tempest of danger, desire, and the darkest passions of the heart. That is a blur for the book. Elise goes out of her way each day to search for rogues in order to kill them. Her abilities harm her if she uses it without protection. She is driven from the grief of losing her only son, her only connection to her breed, her mate, the breed, Onan, I think was his name. She lost Camden, her son, to Prunesum. He turned rogue, and they had to end his life because there was just no way back from it. Elise sought out Tegan in the hope of her helping her track down rogues, because Tegan is breed and he knows how to track down rogues better than many. Tegan lost his mate a long time ago thanks to an enemy. The two hunt down a minion and learn a name. It's a wild ride where stoic Tegan has his heart melted by Elise. They end up as mates. It's obvious they're going to end up as mates. Like every other book in those mates. It's not a spoiler at this point. Laura Adrian sets up these characters nicely in the beginning. For the most part, the motives are clear and precise already because we have their backgrounds from the previous books. So they reacted within expected ranges for each situation that they were put in. As you know, this is a paranormal romance, and if you didn't know that, well, now you do. Don't know why I didn't say it before, but it is. Did this live up to my expectations? Yes. The story continues to fill in more about the breed and the characters in the plot. Like, the most important part of it. The plot. Give me more of that plot. Okay? Which character did I relate to the most? Elise. For the grief at the most part. Because I've never lost a husband or a son, but I have lost my mother. So I know grief. And it's harmful. It can mess with your head in a lot of ways that you don't expect. So for her to find love again, and Tegan to be able to find love again is the loss of his Sorcha, even though that happened hundreds of years ago, it's very good for them in the end to have that. What was more important, the characters or the plot? I want to say the characters. Characters move the plot, even if it was a small amount, even though the book had its own plot of her hunting down minions to find names, to find anything she could to help her grieve for the loss of her previous family. Because, of course, obviously with ending up with Tegan in the end, she will start a new family and will always remember her old one. There are multiple voices that did not affect the reading, of course. It never does for me. The ones previously introduced for the POVs that we know of are Elise, Tegan, and Nico. There are more, but we'll get that down in the spoiler section soon, because these don't really last that long. So I'm going to end this non-spoiler section with, should you go and read this story series? Yes, if you are interested in a vampiric paranormal romance that bounces from one couple to another, go ahead. If it's not your cup of tea, and you don't want to rock your boat of good literature reading or whatever it is you do, then don't read it. Now, as your only warning, if you don't want to be spoiled, go click off this video after you either comment, like, or subscribe, because I think you're beautiful and you need to do that for me. Well, not really, but hopefully you might, maybe. Alright, since everybody's gone, for the spoiler part of this review, they didn't want to get spoiled, we're gonna list a few more important characters that you didn't meet in the previous book. If you haven't read or watched the other videos or books, go ahead and go read them so you know who's already in it. There is no new lingo, so we don't have to worry about that. In the beginning, we learn about Merrick, but we find out is actually one of the masterminds behind everything that is currently happening. The Crimson, the increased rogues, the minions that are everywhere. He's just one of the two masterminds. And as we know, he's Lucan's brother. Andreas Reichen. He's a leader of a dark haven in another country. Forget which country it is, but I'm sure I'll remember eventually. He has pyrokinesis from his mother. And you have Brock. He is a new breed member, replacing one of the previous ones. One that died, Elise's previous husband. He can absorb and diminish human pain and suffering with his hands. Of course, it's not something you really learn until book 6, but it is there. Cade, who is someone else that gets introduced in this as a new warrior of the order, can connect psychically with predator animals, experience their senses, direct their actions with a thought. It's also something you don't learn until book 7, but here, now you know it now, as a spoiler, because it would have been a spoiler in the future. Okay, in this, there are several POVs, as I've mentioned earlier. You got Elise, Tegan, and Nico, along with Merrick, Andres, Reichen, and a minion with an unknown name. You don't ever learn a minion's name. Or minion, who are nameless. Who probably ended up dead at one point or another. Don't know. Or rather, don't remember. My favorite character was Irina. She clung to the love of her life even when he was lost in his bloodlust, and it was better for her to just end this poor, miserable life. My most disliked character was Merrick, Lucan's older brother. He enjoyed toying with and using Sorcha just because he had the power to do so, but he was the one that made her into a minion and made her betray Tegan. And it made Lucan kill Sorcha in front of Tegan And that's how Tegan hated Lucan, even though they were warriors together still for hundreds of years. So this is told in chronological order, like the majority of these books are in chronological order with definitely appropriate language. Peter of Odolf and his mate Irina were used for good foreshadowing and a suspense for the story, along with Merrick and Cassia. And yes, the background was explained thoroughly, along with Dragos and Cassia had been given. Who is Cassia? Dragos' girl? Wife? Mate? First Dragos, because there's 2 Dragos. However, you never learn when Merrick and Dragos struck their deal or why Merrick even faked his own death, because Lucan thought his brother was dead for the longest time. None of it was explained. And another thing, there's actually 2 Dragos. That's not really explained too much either, so it's kind of like a question mark. What stood out as memorable was a tapestry holding the key to the story of Dragos and what happened to the ancient and where the ancient was hidden was woven into a tapestry that was given to Lucan by Cassia before her death. She wanted to hide her son from Dragos because Dragos was crazy, even though they ended up with the same name. Really weird, right? You never knew it had anything hidden within it. And I skipped a part. Let's go back to the title of the book meant something was awakening at night that might be dangerous to the group. The cover of the book symbolizes their meeting between Elise and Tegan, and of course, Elise talking Boston to end rogue lives, endangering her life. My favorite passage from the story is, finally, there was silence. Silence is good for everyone once in a while. As for Elise, where this passage is from, it is really good because most times her head is full of human depravity and she needed to release, and Tegan was able to give her that. So my favorite quote is, even if it means banging your head against the wall. It's a good line that can be used for almost anything. And I actually don't remember where I got it from or what kind of context it had, but yeah, you just walking around, you want to pet that even if it means banging your head against the wall. Sometimes you just want to pet that cat that ain't in reach and you just bang your head against the wall. What I thought about the end of the book. Tegan, you finally have happiness again. Somebody to love. Somebody to start a family. Because they never tell you whether or not Sorcha was pregnant or were planning to get pregnant with Tegan's child. What book did this remind me of? It reminded me of the Nightwalker series by Jacqueline Frank, and eventually I will cover that. But her last name is Frank, and we're already in the A's and the B's only. So, I'm sorry. Alphabetical order. We'll get there eventually. As you know, this book is part of a series. So, if you want to read the whole series, it will take you at least 18 books, if not over 27 books. You include the novellas. Yeah, that's a lot. I hope you're down for it. Because I was only down for the 18 books. I never read the other 8 books, novellas. There's even a companion book now. Do that to help you out, understand things. Maybe I should have bought that and just had that as here's a companion book you can read about all this stuff so I don't have to talk about it myself. But I wanted to talk about it myself because I like to torture myself that way. So, if you made it to the end of the spoiler review, I hoped you at least commented on something. Maybe I got something wrong. Maybe I got something you wanted to question about that I didn't answer. Or maybe you just wanted to say, you suck. Don't care. Leave me a comment. Leave me a like. Leave me your subscription if you think I deserve it. And I'll see you next illusion.